Hello there, and welcome back to the Vintage Gaming Channel for this third and final chapter on the history of Resident Evil. It's not the complete history, but just to get those newcomers of you caught up and getting ready for Resident Evil 8. Now, on to the main event, Resident Evil 7, or Biohazard. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Who knows? It goes by many names these days. And honestly, at this point, I felt like Capcom just threw everything at the wall to see what stuck, and really went back down to basics of the original Resident Evil 1. Now clearly it doesn't have the same graphical style of the good old PlayStation 1, but it definitely did do a back to basics approach. Now let's address that elephant in the room. A Resident Evil game in first person? Now we all thought this was just going to be a ripoff of Call of Duty Zombies. Which I'm here to report, it definitely is not. I had my heart pumping throughout most of the game. And as a nice little added bonus, it has plenty of nods to previous games in the series. Like for example, on my previous video of Resident Evil Revelations, at the very end of the game, O'Brien says he's gonna write a book about the events of the game, and as you're going through the Baker's household, you actually find a copy of that exact same book, which is kind of a funny little nod to the previous game. And not only that, the super weapons, which honestly I think it may be the only super weapon at the very end of the game, is called the Albert O1, which is a clear reference to one of the main antagonists in the Resident Evil series, is Albert Wesker. And there's a couple others, but I'll leave those for you to find. And overall, the game has great pacing, action, and puzzle solving. And story.
Ethan, you were right.
I thought the pacing of the game was done very well. Instead of it more or less blowing its load in the first 30 minutes, it gave you a good deal of suspense, terror, and action, and then as soon as you got a feel of the area of the house you were in, that's really when it dove into the puzzle solving aspect, which I really enjoyed. I never felt bored or exhausted with the game. The only times I had to stop was just to make sure my heart wouldn't burst out of my chest. And even though it is in first person, it is still Resident Evil at its core. And like I said before, it's a really back to basics approach, which I think is phenomenal. And probably one of my favorite parts about it is you don't have to know any of the previous games to enjoy this title. I mean, you'll catch on to certain things and know a character or two, but overall, you don't have to play the other games. It's kind of like the movie Evil Dead 2, where it's both a sequel and a reboot. Either way, a very good idea in my opinion. And as far as going back to basics, you don't get any super weapons, any military grade equipment. Literally just have a pocket knife, a basic handgun, and a hunting pump action shotgun. Nothing over the top and you wouldn't find in a common United States of America household. And they definitely didn't give you too much ammo, but they didn't give you not enough either. It was just enough for you to succeed, but also plenty missing to let you fail as well. So you really had to be invested in the game and want to win. But as far as that goes with basic guns, however, there is one assault rifle that if you're not careful, you can miss it and there is no way to go get it back, which is actually what I did my first playthrough. So when it came to final boss time, it did kind of suck in that aspect, but you know, it's just one small minor gripe. And as I was saying, with the great pacing of the game, the chapter design and going through each part of the property is just phenomenal. I can't really knock it for that. Even going through the second time, even though I knew where stuff was, I was still never bored or exhausted. Always a great time even on the second playthrough. And speaking of the second playthrough, it's got great bonus items like the Albert O1 handgun that you can, on your second playthrough, you can go with and use, so it definitely makes running through a bit easier. And upon my research, I did find out that for your speedrunners, you can actually go through and get a rocket launcher, I believe, which was a staple of the original Resident Evil game. So if you're one for bonus bonuses without having to pay for extra DLC, which is something I'm a strong advocate of. It definitely helps replayability and playing through it multiple times just to see what extra bonuses you can get. And it's got great build up. It never did I feel like it was filler or dragging on. Like, I thought it was very great build up at the end, and not to mention the great plot twist too. I definitely attribute it to something like the original Saw film where the main bad guy was right in front of you the whole time. It's definitely a situation like that which I thought was phenomenal. So aside from the missable guns, there is a couple other things I was not too happy with. Some of the load times can be a little ridiculous if you ask me. I mean, this ain't no Star Wars Battlefront 2, but I mean, come on, this is Xbox One and PS4. We shouldn't be having to wait this long to play these games. And I don't know if this is just an Xbox problem, because that's what I was playing this game on, was the original Xbox One, but in some cutscenes the voices would be out of sync, or the voices just wouldn't be there, which kind of ruined the experience, made that breakaway happen. And it's not like I'm playing this game at launch. They should have had plenty of time to patch that and fix it, and it seems like it's a common issue with Capcom Resident Evil games, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. But all in all, it's a great play. I think the atmosphere, the overall gameplay, everything is amazing. Immersive atmosphere, especially with it being in first person, and how the guns handle and reload, everything just plays phenomenal. And there is some DLC that is paid, but there's one that's free, which is called Not a Hero, and you play as Chris Redfield, which you run into at the end of the game. And it's, even though you're playing as a member of the Blue Umbrella Mercenaries group, it still does have that fear and that limited ammunition aspect to it, which I thought was phenomenal and great. And there is one particular moment in the game, which this is kind of a step into the life of VGC, if you will, is that there's a part in the game, in a cutscene in particular, where Mr. Baker is talking to you one-on-one. He's not trying to kill you or anything. Like, it's the real person behind the killer that was trying to kill you. And it got me deep on that one, mainly because for any of you service members out there that were in the military like myself, it definitely took me back to that moment at basic training. The drill sergeant would take off his hat and talk to you as a person, and I've never had a video game emulate that moment for me before until this one. So from me to Capcom, my hat is off to you, and I thank you. And please stay tuned for future projects and great upcoming videos. If you have any thoughts or ideas for a new video, be sure to feel free to leave it in the comments section below. This is VGC signing off.